Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to the rainforest, where we're going to be planting flowers and trees and attracting animals in perfect habitats and fertilizing. Today we're taking a look at Hutan life in the rainforest, and I'm going to show you how the game's played, and then I'll see you on the other side. In Hutan, you're going to be building different parts of the rainforest. This is just one of like 4 boards you'd be working on. And over the course of the game, you're going to be placing flowers and plants onto your different areas. You're then going to be attracting trees to those, but then if it's a perfect environment, you're going to be attracting the different animals that are going to be worth points as well. Now, I do want to point out it has a little insert that you build with cardboard that holds all the pieces, all the trees, the flowers, the cards, the animals, and all of the tiles fit down there as well. At the beginning of the game, each player's going to get 4 boards, 4 different boards, white, blue, pink, and red. Now, they're going to be made in different ways. These are double-sided. This is the beginner setup, but there's also randomized setup where you can randomize which board is where, and how they're situated, which way they're rotating, and things like that. And they actually are double-sided as well like that. So there's a lot of randomization and variability in the game. Everyone will set up the boards the same way, so everyone essentially has the same puzzle. Players will take turns with starting player going clockwise. On your turn, the first thing you'll do is you're going to plant flowers. So you're going to look at the cards. There's a certain amount of these out here depending on players. This is a 3-player game. And you're going to take one of these cards and you're going to plant those flowers, or you could take this. We'll talk about that in a moment. It's the first player marker. Let's say you take this. Now essentially you take the corresponding flowers, this can now get discarded, and you're going to place them. Now you'll notice each of these boards have different areas. This is an area of 2. It's got waterways that make it separate from the other ones. It even shows it here, 2, and it shows the space. Here is like a T Tetris space, 6, it says 1, 2, 3, there's 4 of them here, and this is worth 6 points if you fill this completely up with all the same flowers. This one's going to be worth 2 points and such. This is a space of 2, a space of 4. Some of these are lake spaces that you can't put anything on. Now what you're trying to do is place these flowers on these spaces and have it so that each section only has 1 color flower. So for example, at the beginning of the game you can start anywhere. So let's say I start here, I put red, now I have to go adjacent, not including diagonal. I'll go black, adjacent, blue. Why was that good? Well, because at the beginning here, I have 3 different areas. One here, one here, and one here that have different colors, and that's okay. Now, I'm going to want to put a red one here, a blue one here, and fill this one all up with blacks, because at the end of the game, again, if you fill them all up with all of the same color, you'll get a certain amount of points. 6 if you fill up these 4 squares. 2, for example. If you don't, if you start one of these, and you either have different colors or you don't finish it, you get minus that many points. So you don't want to start an area unless you think you can finish it. So let's say the next player takes this, the next player takes this, and there's these 3 left. Let's say we take this one, 2 blues. Now, if I wanted to, again, you have to start somewhere adjacent, not diagonal, to where you already have flowers. So I could start here because it's adjacent to something, and then you still go adjacent, which means I'd go here. Now, I'm starting a new area of blue. So that's kind of cool, right? Because I've got this one built up and I'm starting to build a new one. But when you're placing them, you can place on top of the same flower, but it has to be one that you dropped on a previous turn. So I couldn't be like 1, 2, but I could be like 1, 2. And now the second part of your turn is, if you can, you will try to grow trees and complete areas. If you have 2 of them on there, you replace that top one with a tree. And so there, I've got a tree here. Why are trees important? Trees are all worth 2 points. So at the end of the game, this section's now finished. It's perfect here. It's all blue, so I'm going to get 2 points. But I'm also going to get 2 points for that tree. Now let's just say it was a future round, and this is what was left, okay? This just lets you take any one of any color. This allows you to take one of any color, but allows you to be the first player next round. And turn order is super important towards the end once you're trying to finish out your puzzle. Note that you cannot take this if you were the first player unless everyone else has had a chance to take a turn first. So let's say we took this. We'll be first player next turn, and we'll get this. So let's say we could start here, we could go over here, anywhere adjacent, but let's go here. Now we're going to attract a tree. So again, this one's going to come off. We're going to put a tree. And now we have a perfect area. Both of them are trees, but now we have a perfect habitat. And we're going to take the animal that matches that habitat's color, and we will replace the tree that we just placed with this. Now, what's that going to do for us? Well, it's going to get us 3 points because we have an animal in this region here. So instead of it getting 2 points for this, it's now going to get 3 points instead because we've got that animal there. Also, now you can fertilize. This animal, you're going to fertilize anywhere adjacent, up, down, left, right, And they could be any flowers. Like this is full, there's nothing below me. So in this case, I could just place there, and I could place anything I wanted. Let's just say we went with like yellow, for example. But sometimes you'll be placing something, and at the end of the next turn, it might end up creating a tree and such. That is pretty much the game, because next round, you just keep doing the same thing. So you're planting flowers. You're trying to make them all the same color. You're trying to put flowers on top of the same color to create trees that are worth 2 points. And you're trying to finish areas. Any areas started, not completed, are minus points, like -4. All trees are 2 points. Completed areas of the same color show you the points in here, and animals give you points. Whoever has the most is the winner. There's an advanced variant. There's many of these bonus cards, and you'll use 5 randomly each game. These give you more ways to score, like 2 points for every tree that's on the outside edges of your board, or 1 point for every tree that's anywhere surrounding a lake, or 3 points for each completed area using just, in this case, red flowers, or like having 2 points for each tree that you have on flowers, blue flowers, for example. Or the last one here, you could choose any of the 5 colors, and you score 4 points for each of your 4 rainforest boards that has at least one area that's completed of that color. So lots of different replayability here. There's also a family mode where you don't subtract points for not having completed areas or starting ones that you didn't finish. That's pretty much it. All right, let me tell you what I like about it. Well, first of all, coming into this, I had high expectations. Well, A, it has amazing art, Vincent Dutray. Just every time he does something, it draws me in, and it makes me like a game better than it normally is. And he does that with all of his games. The other thing is the design team here has done a lot of things. They were involved in Heat, and which the predecessor to that was Flamme Rouge, and they've done a lot of games that I really like this design team. So I'm always interested in what they're doing. So first of all, the amazing art comes through like normal. Vincent Dutray knocks it out of the park, as he always does. It really does draw you into the theme of the game. Now this is a puzzly, abstract game, and the game I can probably most closely say it kind of feels like, even though it still feels very different, is like Calico, or maybe even Cascadia a little bit. Those sort of puzzly games where you're dealing with your own sort of solo board and your solo puzzle, but you're also dealing with some indirect interactions of what things players are taking. They could be indirect or possibly a little bit more direct, where people can sort of hate draft and look at what you need and take something. Doesn't happen that often. Most of the time you are really more focused on helping yourself than hurting one of the other players at the table. But if you like the puzzly aspect of Calico, this game is much more forgiving than that. That was the one sort of knock on that, is you could have been waiting for one tile that's the right color and the right pattern, and it either comes up if someone else takes it, or it might not even come up because you don't use all the tiles in that game, and sometimes that game could be very frustrating. This takes that same feeling of trying to create this amazing little puzzle with more flexibility and a little bit more forgiving, if you will. So that's the best way I can sort of say that. If you like Calico, you're probably going to like this, and it's even more forgiving and more flexible. The game has great table presence. You've got these beautiful things on the board, but you're building the flowers, you're building the standing up trees, you've got the animals, all the components look nice. So table presence is great. I love the tension of the turn order importance. At the beginning of the game, turn orders, it's important, but it's not as important as the game goes on. Each turn, the turn order gets more and more important as things start to sort of lock you into what you really need. And going first is great because you're going to get your first pick, and you still get one wild thing, right? So people are usually fighting over turn order at the end of the game. At the beginning of the game, you're trying to just put a lot of things out there, but the tension ratchets up as the game goes on. You've got a plan. You're planning for the trees. You're also planning for which tree am I going to put last, because the last tree is going to be where the animal is attracted to. Normally it doesn't work, but when you're playing the advanced game, it can matter as to where that animal goes in reference to lakes and what parts of your board and things like that. I like the fertilizing is really interesting, where you're trying to decide which tree am I going to put last, because that will bring the animal, which now allows me to fertilize to adjacent areas. So you're trying to get that to go where maybe you have 3 other areas that are adjacent that don't have anything. It's hard to kind of do that because you kind of have to work your way in there. But if you can, it's really fulfilling and satisfying there. I love that the game has sort of advanced scoring cards. Definitely makes it a brain burner. They tell you to put 5 out there. It's like, oh my gosh, focus on 1 or 2 of those things. If you're trying to do them all, your brain's going to melt. There's a lot of there. Huge variability of the setup because you've got the different boards. They're double-sided. They're different on each side. You're using them in different configurations, different rotations. So you're going to have different. Sometimes it's going to be harder than that, but everyone's playing on the same puzzle, so it's all the same there. Now, when it comes to the game itself, I like the arc of the game, where essentially you're you got freedom at the beginning, then you're working way up, and then towards the end, you're really trying to like get things finished by the end. You're trying not to start things you're not going to finish, and you're trying to finish things before the end of the game. It has a good tension. I don't have a whole lot negative to say about this game. It's really smooth. It's really streamlined. I will say the game can be analysis paralysis prone. If you play with people that has analysis paralysis, this game's gonna get them. And you're gonna be sitting there waiting because it's like, you could be like, hey, I want to take this card, and then you're like, it's like, okay, yellow, red, and blue, and you take it and you're like, oh crap, I can't actually use this because now this is gonna be doing something that I didn't quite see before I took the card. Hey, can I back that up? Or someone's looking at all of them, and they're looking at all the cards, and they're in their brain looking at the cards, looking at the board, looking at the cards, looking at the board, and going, if I take this one, I could go like here, then here, then here, and that leaves me this over here. Oh, but I could take this one and come that other way, but then that locks me. Like, there's so many. You're trying to be as efficient as possible, so you've got a lot to digest and figure out what to take. Analysis paralysis can be a bear in this game. It's a legit thing. So if you play with people that do, or you have it, this game is going to facilitate that a little bit. The only other negative I could say on the production side of things is when you're placing the flowers. Now, granted, you need to be looking at how big an area is. Sometimes you miss, like, now the area itself, it has a little illustration as to like, hey, this is 2, this is a T-shape. You can kind of see that. But sometimes it's very easy for those flowers to sort of cover the points that it's worth, sometimes covering part of the shape. And so you might like think it's a different shape than it really is. And then you get something like, oh wait, that's a different section. Oh man, I didn't see that. And if you kind of have to make sure that when you place the flowers that you pull them off the illustrations and make sure that you have to be very careful with that. I kind of wish that the board was a little bigger, so the area was a little bigger, so that the flowers don't have to be like pushed in, like almost hovering over the next one, to make sure you can clearly see all of the shapes, all of the points for the shapes, all the animal points. They kind of get covered a little bit. I would have risked for a slightly larger footprint, or make the flowers slightly smaller in order to make sure that doesn't happen. It was a bit of an issue, a little bit. But once you get used to kind of pushing them to the side and so that they're, but then you have like the OCD thing where it's like, no, I want the flower to be in the center of the square. I don't want it to be on the edge, Anyway, so those are the only negatives I have about the game. But other than that, it's fantastic. We're looking for that sort of puzzly Calico style of game that's more forgiving, a little bit easier going, but still has just as much brain burn. That is Hutan. It's been Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games by helping you on the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and they just launched their 4.5 Kickstarter, which will introduce the new Galactic, Mycroft, and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. Search for Game Toppers on Kickstarter or go to GameToppersLLC.com.